So why don't we go ahead and get started? I just heard my grandfather clock. Actually, it clicked 9 bells. So here in Chicago, it is 9 a.m. And whatever time it is where you are, welcome. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Judy Feldhausen, and I am a synergy distributor. I have some experience in coaching. I've got 3 certifications and used to live my life working with business peoples to improve their circumstances, whatever circumstances they wanted to be. And I'm joined today with my good friend, who we may be able to meet in Texas together at some point, Bob Wischmeier. Good morning, Bob.
Thank you, Judy. Good morning to you as well. Yeah, it'd be fun if we could make that Houston trip line up. Maybe the stars will line up and we'll be able to make that happen. But great to be here this morning as well, you guys. And it's always a joyful thing to start a Saturday morning off with a little bit of positive thinking. So that's what we're going to do today.
Absolutely. And when I looked at the subject of this chapter from Les Brown's Law of Success, we're actually on chapter 6. And it's kind of a negative title. Leave all negativity and toxins behind. And, you know, we have to, I guess, look at our lives sometimes and look at the negativity and actually kind of immerse ourselves into what those toxins are, because if we don't know what they are, we can't leave them behind. And so today we're going to talk about really what is that and what we can do in our lives to turn the corner, to leave them behind, and really what it is and what we can do about it. And I know, Bob, you have a story about your journey with Marvin. Did you want to share that?
Yeah, I would. I'd like to. You know, there isn't a single person on this webinar today that hasn't had to deal with some measure of adversity in life. It's just a part of things. You know, it'd be nice if you could go through life and, you know, not ever bump into anything, but that's just not how things are. And I think that we need to face adversity. Out of adversity comes strength, and I believe that with all my heart. But I worked for many years in an environment that was extremely negative, and I had no way of getting out of it at the time. I spent a decade in a business that was extremely time-consuming, very, very physically difficult. I owned a butcher shop, and we had cattle. We ran cattle. I loved the whole ranching side of that business, but I had to work with an older gentleman named Marvin, and he was the most negative guy you can even imagine. And in 10 years of working beside this man, side by side, every single day, never once did he say a kind word to me. Never. He used to say to me, "You're just a dreamer." I'll never forget that. "You're just a dreamer." And I was a dreamer. I mean, and I admit to that. I'm not going to lie. I tried to dream dreams that were twice my size. It was important to me. But through all of that, I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of things about what I wanted to do in life, and a lot of things like what I don't want to do and who I don't want to be. But he had a pretty profound effect on me, and I look back at that through time. I don't want to say that I'm glad that happened, but in a way I kind of am, because I learned that I could move away from that kind of negativity. I could live with it in the moment because I had no other choice at the time. I had 5 little kids. We just had a lot going on, and I had to have that business, and I couldn't fire him because he was my partner's father. And so I had to learn how to live with and deal with that negativity, that toxic environment. And I did learn how to deal with that. And he's long since passed away, and I have frankly forgiven him for the way that he treated me. But that expression, "You're just a dreamer," I've never forgotten that. And I think that's a good thing for all of us to be a dreamer, to look forward to things in a positive way. Judy?
Interesting that he actually gave you a compliment, but from his belief, he thought it was an insult.
Oh yeah, yeah. From where he was coming from, he certainly did.
Yeah. And there's that kind of toxic energy around us, that negativity in so many things. Even from beginning in our synergy journey, when we look at the synergy opportunity, the business part of it, there could have been negative comments about, what are you doing? Who do you think you are to be able to do that? And it didn't work for Uncle Al, so it's not going to work for you. And I've heard bad things about network marketing, and that toxic energy, if we would listen to it, if we had listened to it, we may not be here today.
Yeah, Dan Hammer taught me a really important lesson a long time ago. When we come into Synergy Worldwide, we come in as a team member, but we come in as an independent Synergy distributor. As such, we have the opportunity to sponsor other people into the business. And sometimes the men or women who sponsor us into the business fail us. Sometimes they don't help us. They don't bring anything along with them. They don't, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, what the heck? Here I am. I'm like an island unto myself. I'm not getting any help from a sponsor. And something Dan Hammer said a long time ago was, if your sponsor isn't helping you, if you don't like your sponsor, if your sponsor isn't taking care of you, get over it. Move forward anyway. Go somewhere else. Find the help that you need and the energy that you need from another source, and stop worrying about what you can't do anything about. And that was important to me, because my sponsor went AWOL along the way. It was challenging and difficult, but put that toxic energy away. There are so many. I mean, you look around you. I almost hate to look at the news anymore. It's just, there's just such an environment. We live in a world today where athletes and celebrities are lecturing us on how we should live our lives. You gotta be kidding me. These people can't even run their own lives. I'll be darned if they're going to run my life, that whole concept. So corruption in the highest levels of government, and on and on and on. It's really a toxic environment. And so if we don't learn to step beyond that, get beyond that, put that away from us, it can just eat you alive. We've got to make positive choices. How do we see the world, and move forward in that regard? Positive.
Yes. Absolutely. And one of the things is having hope. And, Bob, I was reading over my notes and reading over the chapter again before in preparation, final preparation of this webinar today. And I looked at that slide, and the first thing I thought of is, why in the world would I have put that in? Because in reading the chapter, there's nothing there about hope, really. That word, I read through the entire chapter, and I'm thinking, what could he possibly be thinking that I put this slide in here about hope? But so let me share that, because we haven't really had a chance to do that. But in reading right at the beginning and reading the story about Les Brown and how he decided he wanted to be a DJ. And so he went to a radio station to apply for a job. And, he was told, there's no openings. Sorry, thank you. And the next day he came back and he said, hi, I'm Les Brown and I'm here to apply for a job. And the guy said, well, we don't have any openings. Thank you. And the next day Les Brown came back and he said, I'm Les Brown. And the guy said, I know who you are. And we still don't have a job. And he kept doing this until finally the gentleman said, well, get me a cup of coffee. And that get me a cup of coffee changed Les Brown's life, because he did end up at that radio station. He did get a job, and he did very well for many, many years. But and when I read that story, that word just absolutely popped in my mind, Bob. And I actually looked up the definition, and it said hope is an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of a positive outcome with respect to events and circumstances in one's life or the world at large. And so I really see how, Les Brown had hope. He actually had a belief system that he would get a job. And that belief kept spurring him forward to keep after it long after the evidence to the negative was real, long after that opportunity was denied him. He kept on going.
It's a great story, isn't it? It's a great story. And when I saw that you'd pulled this slide up, that the only word on it was hope, and in my review of the chapters, he mentions the word hope in one of the segments, but it isn't like a chapter heading or anything like that. But I love it. I love it. I had whenever we do these webinars, you guys, we try to draw from our own personal life experiences because, memory, we preach from the memory, the pulpit of memory, if you will. But years ago, I had was in a job situation. I'd sold my business in Montana. I was doing some other things kind of in between, if you will. I wasn't exactly sure where I was going to go with things. I had to reinvest my equity out of my business, and we were in between things. And anyway, there is a store that, long story short, the owner of this business came into where I was working at the time, and I mentioned to him when he came in, because I wanted to get a job in his business, and I told his manager, I said, you guys have a really nice setup. I really like what you've got going there, and I said, but you guys are missing something. And he said, what are we missing? I said, you're missing me. He said, you need me in your business. I said, if you hire me, your business is going to do better. And he laughed and we laughed, and it wasn't 2 weeks later, something like that. He came in again and says, can I take you to lunch? Next thing I knew, I had a job. It's, in life, this whole concept of hope is so important. I've told my friends before, there have been times in my life where I almost felt like I was getting away with something because life was good. That abundance mentality and positive thinking really move us forward. And Judy, I'm kind of waxing on here, but one other thing. I went back to Boston 2 years ago, I think it was, maybe 3, and I spent 3 months in the Boston area helping one of my boys. He had it's kind of a long story. He was in Walpole, and he just needed help at his warehouse. He ran a great big company there. And so I went to help him. And so I'd go in the afternoon and I'd work for 4 or 5 hours and just help him out. And there was a kid back in this big giant warehouse, Daniel, and he had earplugs in all the time. Now, all he was doing was pulling parts, auto body parts, aftermarket auto body parts to fill orders. That's what he did. Strip trailers, inventory, all that kind of stuff. But all day, every day, that kid was listening to Jim Rohn, Les Brown, all positive thinking. He was just filling his mind with positive self-improvement while he was pulling auto body parts in that warehouse. It was cool. It was the neatest thing to see that kid. He was young, just barely married, and he wanted to improve his life. He had hope for the future. He was not going to be pulling auto body parts for the rest of his life. He was going to move forward as an entrepreneur. I loved that about that, and we do need hope. We have to grow it. We have to cultivate it, maintaining our integrity, and understand that things can and will change. Judy?
That's so true. And I was reading a book yesterday, and the whole idea of hope has been on my mind. But in the book, there was a sentence that it just caught me, and it said, "Hope blossomed." And when I started to just look at that sentence and think about that sentence and thinking about hope blossoming, and I believe that when we have hope, we get this tingly feeling in our guts that we have more strength to move forward. And it also, to be, is the precursor of inspiration. And it's to me, it's a belief that there is a higher power, and through this all I get strength to move ahead and not move behind and get into desperation.
Yeah, that's really sweet. You know, one of my heroes, Russell M. Nelson, made the comment, the joy we feel has little to do with the circumstances in our lives and everything to do with the focus in our lives. Really good counsel.
Yes, because our environment is so affected by our growth in so many different areas. I know that Bob, you changed employment a few years ago that changed your life.
Well, it did. You know, I'm old enough that I've had more than one career. I've owned some businesses. I've worked for some different people. You know, I mean, that's how it is. You get to be our age, and you've had some life experiences. But I had an opportunity at one point in time, and it was a complete fluke. I was working as an operation director for a regional LTL freight company out of Missoula, Montana. I loved it. It was a great job, and I'd been there for a long time. My closest friend owned the company. We worked really well together. We loved each other, really, frankly. And but the company sold, and in the process of him selling that business, part of selling that business, he and I had to go along with the business to the company that bought him out. I had to go along as a supervisor into this new company. It was part of the package. I had to go with the sale of the company. It was the darndest thing, and I was not comfortable with it. And he and I did it. I mean, it's what we had to do, and we had families to take care of, and we did well. We made good money, and we enjoyed the work. But I didn't like that company, and so I told my good friend Bob, I said, I'm going with you, for a while here, but I'm at a point in my life where I want to make a change. And absolutely out of nowhere, a friend of mine who owned a title company in Hamilton, Montana, just in a casual conversation, I was sitting in his office. It was quiet. It was just nice, and I'd been in this roughy, tough business with dock workers and trucking and, just noisy and busy and just craziness all the time. And this friend, Ken, I said to him, gosh, Ken, it's nice in here. What a nice environment to work in, So if you ever need anybody, let me know, would you? And I was just joking. I mean, I didn't know anything about doing title work and research in a title company. And he said, how soon can you start? And I said, all right. I was kind of dumbfounded at that. But he offered me a job, and I said, well, Ken, I've got to make X amount of money, because we did well in the industry I was in. And he said, no, I can match that. Yeah, but I get 3 weeks of paid vacation. He goes, yeah, I'll give you 3 weeks. He said, plus I'll pay for your medical insurance for your family. I couldn't believe it. And it came out of nowhere, but it absolutely changed my life. I went from this roughy, tough industry that I've been, in cattle industry, and I had a butcher shop and all that went along with that, and then this roughy, tough freight industry that we'd been in for so long, into a quiet environment that changed my life, really, literally forever. I didn't know a thing about it, but I'm a quick study, and I like paperwork, and I like maps, and it was a perfect fit for me. And it came at a really important time in my life. That's when I say sometimes I feel like I'm getting away with something. I walked out, toxic at a lot of time environment, into a very quiet and peaceful environment. It was life-changing, Judy. Thank you.
Yes, and so people really can affect our growth positively or negatively, and it's kind of up to us to determine how we are going to react to that, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But also, the media. I tell you, my husband loves Fox News. I hate to admit it. My daughter got him a cup for his birthday that is a Fox News cup so he can drink his tea and watch Fox News. And to me, I cannot even watch it. It's just way too negative. What's happening politically and with the not only the political environment, but the trade environment and the conflicts in different parts of the country. To me, that it is so negative, I actually have to avoid it.
Just, it's interesting you'd say that. Bonnie and I were watching a Netflix documentary on the Vietnam War. And there are a bunch of news clippings they'll show. Suddenly on the screen will be a news clipping about something going on in the Vietnam War. I'm looking at the rest of that newspaper, and everything in those newspapers, and this was clear back in the 60s, everything on there was something negative, something challenging going on in the world. And even looking back, I could see that on the screen back in the 60s and how much negativity there was. It's unbelievable. It really is. Just one little thing about people I wanted to share. There's a gal by the name of Mary Butters, and she has a magazine that she's created. She's sort of Martha Stewart, but a farm girl kind of a gal. She's really fun, and they've got a farm actually up here by where we live now. But when we were in Montana, we used to get her magazine, and she's married to a friend of mine. And in a conversation one time with Mary Butters, because some people think they don't like her for whatever reason, because she's this farm girl. That's her whole thing, is being a farm girl. And she made the comment. She goes, how did she put it? I don't pay any attention to the eye rollers, the naysayers, the eye rollers. I don't pay any attention to the eye rollers. And I thought how important that is in life, because, the environment and the people that, look at you and put you down. It didn't matter to her. She didn't pay any attention to that. And anyway, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, that's so true. And if you do pay attention to the eye rollers, it gets into our psyche. And one of the things that I learned through my coaching classes were the importance of self-talk. And at that point, the first coaching certification that I took, we talked about gremlins. And those gremlins are those voices on the shoulder that, say negativity about anything and everything. And I remember when I was growing up, my mom made a comment not to expect to be famous or change my life circumstances, because what I have been given is what I will have. And that became self-talk to me. And through many, many, many years, I was happy with what I had and never expected more from it. And, it wasn't really until I got into network marketing that I learned that that statement wasn't true.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how something that simple, when you're a little kid, can affect you forever? It really does. Les Brown says that we're conditioned to be fearful. I think that's an interesting concept. We're taught things when we're kids, and boy, they really stay with us. It takes a long time while we're on this about our environment and the media, because mass media is just, I don't know, it just drives me crazy. Talk about your Jeff and the Fox News thing. The ladies in our church were counseled or challenged, I guess is the right word, to do a 10-day fast from social media. This was earlier last year. to go 10 days with no social media, and then to see how that changed their lives, what it did to them, how they felt about it. It was a really interesting experience. And a lot of our friends who went through that 10-day, Bonnie did it, 10 days with no social media, and to do other things with that time instead. And it was a really positive experience to get away from the media, from all of those negative toxins. And anyway.
Yes, and when we do get away from those negative toxins, our self-talk changes, because it's not in our face all the time, and we can start thinking positively, or even just observing that we've been thinking negatively. I really believe that's the first step for any personal growth, is the observation of what is going on.
You need to cleanse your gut. I thought that was an interesting thing as well, how physically we've got to take better care of ourselves. We need to try to be on top of our game the very best we can. That's where the 21-day challenge concept really helps me, because it helps me to focus from day to day on my personal health.
And when we have self-care, when we're taking care of ourselves physically, emotionally, spiritually, and with what we put in our body, we not only think more positively, but we have more energy. When our bodies are taken care of, they can take care of us.
Yeah, Judy, I was just thinking too, with regard to this, sometimes I find myself, frankly, talking to myself. I'll have a thought come into my mind. I'll be doing something, I'm engaged in something, and I'll think of something that is negative, a situation is bothering me for whatever reason, and I find myself actually talking to myself. I'll say to myself out loud even, don't think about that, Bob. Don't go there. You don't need to go there. It's not going to help. What do we need to do right now to move forward? I actually consciously speak out loud to myself. Don't think about that. You don't need to think. It does not bear good fruit. It's negative. Don't think about it. Move forward. And it helps me to do that. It's self-talk, literally self-talk. It's not just in my mind, but I speak out loud. Don't go there, Bob. You don't need to go there. And that's been really helpful to me. I think Bonnie thinks I'm a little crazy sometimes when I'm mumbling to myself, but it works.
Absolutely. My mom also told me that it's okay to talk to yourself, just don't answer yourself. and I believe that that's not true either, because I think we need to answer ourselves. Yeah. So I love my mom. So, and this is a especially interesting picture for me. It's I took it at a family reunion. We were at a picnic on a lake, and to me, this picture was just a sign of peace, a sign of hope, and a sign of possibility. And it really makes me, just looking at it, makes me want to do better, to know that life does matter, and it has value, and it is important. My mom may have been right. I'm probably never going to be famous as far as what the world believes, but I have a whole bunch of important, and I am making such a big difference on the people that I have the blessing to touch every day in my life.
It is a beautiful and peaceful picture. There's no question. And I think for those on the webinar today, as you read this, my life matters, my life has value, my life is important. If you're not thinking those things, if for any reason that doesn't resonate with you, you need a little help. You need to stop and think that through a little bit and get healthier. We only get one body. We're only on the planet Earth for a limited amount of time. And we need to keep that positive thought in our mind. I am important. Every one of us are unique. I have 5 children. You'd think that all 5 of them would be the same because they come from, me and Bonnie, and they're as different as night and day, all of them. Their lives matter, all of us, for all of us. So, keep on the sunny side. When Bonnie and I first got married, I had a 39 Chevy pickup. Now, that was just before the war, that World War II. They didn't make very many of those old pickups, and they were really cool. And I had mine all customized, and it was a really cool truck. It was the talk of the county. And I had a little sticker on my dashboard that said, "Be like 2 fried eggs, keep your sunny side up." That was my motto when I was a young man, be like 2 fried eggs, keep your sunny side up. In other words, be positive, move forward in an abundance mentality. And it has paid huge dividends for me in my life. It really has. My life matters, and so does yours. And Judy, thank you so much for sharing this beautiful slide with us.
Thank you. Because really, our life is really today is a blank canvas for what's going to be happening in the future for us. And it's a masterpiece in the making. I watch my daughter, Danielle, actually painting as a gift for someone. And she laid out her paints and her canvas, and she had made a decision on what this was going to be. And she started just painting this picture, and about 3/4 of the way she said, "No, that's not the picture, that's here." And she added some colors, she took away some colors, and she made a picture totally different than the one that she started with. It was absolutely breathtaking. And so what is going on today in our lives isn't really what we're going to end with. We get to add colors and take away colors, meet new people, take the toxins in our life and leave them behind, get rid of those colors of toxins, and create the masterpiece that we want to create.
Yeah, you're so right, Judy. And I think we need to remember as well, you guys, that there are hard things that occur in the course of our lives, but if we have any hope of growing and becoming the kind of men and women that we have the capacity to become, we have to face the challenges of the world and come out ahead. How we deal with the adversity that we face in this life will determine who we're going to become. And it's so important that when hard things happen, when difficult and challenging times come, or toxic people come into our lives, that we deal with it properly. Do that, make that right choice, that correct choice that will lead us forward, lead us onward and upward, rather than pulling us down. There's so many things in life trying to pull us down. We don't need to go there. I think of that, and they lived happily ever after. And I love the concept, but the guy that first said that, probably ought to be horsewhipped, because it's kind of unfair, because life is challenging, but we can face the adversity that life throws at us, the kind of environment, the kind of people, the kind of media that we have to face, and we can pull ahead of it, move ahead of it, and move forward with an abundance mentality and positive thought process. And that's what we have to do. We have to work through things. Bonnie and I have had to work through some very tough things the last few months, but we move forward because our lives do matter. And there's one thing that occurs in our life, we can't allow ourselves to become ineffective because there are others who need us, other people in our sphere of influence. So we try to move forward, and the time to do that is now, right? Now is the time for action.
Absolutely. Now is the time for action. We're at a starting gate today, and I believe that every day we can, continue and start a new portion of our race. It is time for action. It's time to grow. So there are times when I'm not feeling, quite at it, and I'm like, oh gosh, I've got this to do, and I've got this to do, and the pile of shoulds, they say they should on me. and I get negativity. And I actually use Alexa, as we were talking before, and I say, Alexa, give me some inspiration. And because I'm all alone here, Jeff is working during the day, so I'm all alone, and sometimes I don't want to make that next call, or write that next newsletter. And Alexa gives me inspiration. She might be give me inspiration from Steve Jobs, or Leonardo DiCaprio, or Oprah Winfrey, or something that she comes across positive to just give me a boost. So, if you don't have the ability to create your own action, ask for help wherever it may come from.
Yeah, this whole industry that we're in, the network marketing and the kind of work that we do is it's a business of self-development. And I love that about this industry, because it really does drive us to learn more, to grow more. And there's no better time to do that than today. So the time for action, Judy, is now. Get up in the morning and move forward positively. Do your 21-day challenge categories. I think that's important. It gives you really a good start on the day when you can glance down and see these affirmations, these little challenges right before your eyes, right there where you'll see them every day. They help you to move forward. So thank you so much, Judy, for sharing the morning webinar with me.
And thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. So that is the conclusion of our webinar today. I hope that there was one small thing that will make a difference in your life, or maybe that has touched you. If you have any questions or comments, now's the time to we'll open up the mics and hear from the people on the webinar. Any questions?
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Judy.
All. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go forward, sir.
Thanks. It's Donald.
Hey, Donald.
I'm still in Barbados. A little bit late to the webinar, but I want to thank you guys for what I caught. The reason is, I came down in the winter, so to speak, a couple of months ago to get some R&R and what a couple of things hit me or has hit me, which I've got to deal with now and in the next couple of months. So I want to thank you for sharing. My last week, this time, my brother was literally fighting for his life, and he passed like almost midnight last Saturday night. And my daughters, they're doing what I did years ago. They're moving out of New York, and I've got to join them and head to Florida. So thanks for the nuggets that I've got to deal with going into the beginning of the year. So for me, it's like it's a blank slate, so to speak. So I head back to New York. The funeral is sometime this week, so I thank you.
Yeah, Donald, we're sorry about your brother. That's tough stuff. My sister Cheryl died. Remember, and our son died on September 7th, 4 days later. It's tough. It's tough to lose those you love. So we wish you the very best. And with your move, you're going to move from New York to Florida. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Port St. Lucie. They're looking at, and it has happened sooner than I had anticipated. Put the condo up, and there's a buyer, so to speak. So sometimes God just working or still in mysterious ways. So you just got to let God. Thanks.
Take your Speedo and your golf clubs when you go.
Yeah.
Good luck, Donald. We love you.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you, guys.
Good morning, guys. Listen, I enjoyed your talk about Les Brown. I gotta admit, he's one of my favorite motivational speakers, and he's a great example of inspiration and hope, as you say, because when you talk about his story, his background, the challenges he had in life, that's tough. That was tough. So we really can't say we had a tough life without looking at his and saying, if he can do it, we can do it. And one of the takeaways I have with him, one of my favorite quotes, he says, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. And the reason he said that is because, of course, nobody does it right the first time. And that goes with our Synergy business. We're always in the process of doing things better, self-improvement, realizing that people have been where we have been before us. And they have overcome it. They just keep trying. Don't quit. Keep going. The same thing with your health as with your business. So thank you for sharing the story of Les Brown and a lot of the nuggets, the beautiful nuggets of life that he's brought to us. So I enjoyed it very much. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Okay, Judy. Thank you, my dear.
And thank you, Bob. It's as always, it's a pleasure. And next week, I actually wrote down, is chapter 7, not next week, next month. We're going to talk about follow the success trails that have been paved before you. So after we remove the toxins, where are we going? So that should be an interesting chapter.
It'll be great. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Take care. We'll
Have
see
a
you
good week,
again before you
everybody.
know it. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.